my laptop is mad that I haven't backed it up in 305 days, but fool that thing. I haven't had turned it on for 305 days, so
Yeah.
Maybe it's yelling at you about that.
it's a little bit
Maybe it's
mad.
angry.
2
You never
hours.
back me up anymore, B. What? Remember the days?
I
The
remember when he
memories
used to
that we used to
open
back up into drives?
I got a Hackintosh to replace you. I don't.
You told it. You replaced it.
It's-
It's right there.
It's running El Capitan. I can't make it do any more than it already is.
I feel
You're
so
right.
sorry.
It is the captain.
Yeah, it is the
Did
captain.
you name your? Do you name your electronics?
I don't.
Oh, you're one of those. Okay, I see.
What is that supposed to mean? Holy
It's
shit!
gonna be the whole
Holy bus!
I hate it when Mom and Dad fight about Hackintoshes.
Oh man, Beach.
What?
Did Ian tell you he's thinking of going full BSD?
Is he? What?
Really? Why?
It's the wave of the future. Is it?
He's
Wow.
mad at
For when you're
Dewey
sick of
Whitley.
playing games, but want to play the game of why doesn't my computer work?
I know.
We were saying the other day, it's really funny because when I was in my early 20s and in university, when Ian and I were hanging out, Ian used to beat me about the head and shoulders with the idea that Apple is just clearly superior. This is PowerPC days, I want to be clear. And it wasn't until he gave me a giant poster of the 15-inch titanium PowerBook that then I was finally like, okay, this is cool. And Steve Jobs had returned to the company, and I was like, I get it. I understand we're bringing the power and the sex. That was the stuff that Steve Jobs literally said on stage about this.
Did it say it that way on the poster?
No.
We bring the power. We bring.
The sex. But he was like, he's like total Apple guy, and I was like, dude, but we have to use Linux because there's no ethical operating system under capitalism. We have to use Linux. And
Okay, he's mad that the Mac OS isn't as Unixy as it used to be.
Yeah. Which I don't know even if that's true, because you can still pull up a terminal and you can still do all sorts of stuff. You might have to type in your password to get like access to things, but you have to do that on BSD and Linux as well. Like Unix requires you to enter passwords to do things. Like
You can't just pull up a terminal. You need like 5 shells.
so.
To hide the terminal under?
So I think it's really funny that he was all into that and I wasn't. But then I saw this PowerBook and I'm like, okay, that is actually very pretty and really titanium alloy. That's really rad. And he bought one, in fact. And so over the years, I have slowly moved away from using Linuxes and started acquiring Apple devices. And that was out of a thing of like, boy, you know what I want sometimes though is I just want my phone to work when I wake up in the morning. Because I was going to get a Linux phone. Like there were many Linux phones early on, and I know Android is based on Linux, and I was like watching that too. But I was like, but then the iPhone came out, and I was like, I just want my phone to work.
I've never heard the phrase a Linux phone.
Yeah.
I wonder why. Gee, what a
They still
strange
make-
thing to. I wonder why
Yeah.
nobody's made a Linux phone.
There are several open source Linux phones still on the market. You can buy them. They're still really good. Like because they're making new ones all the time, but they're just not terribly popular. And I wanted one so bad, but then the whole thing about, but what if I just want my phone to always work all the time? So I did that, and then I've slowly come around to this. Like we bought you a new MacBook Pro.
A couple of years back, yeah.
No, but I mean like even before that in 2009 or so.
Oh, we're going back that far. Okay,
When you were in,
yes.
you were in college at that time, so we got
Sure.
you a MacBook Pro, which is the one I'm using right here.
I don't have memories of
And
that
so
time period.
I
but
inherited
okay.
this one from her because she got a new one like a few years ago, and it's like,
Oh, so it does have a name then. It's just not the name you gave it. Okay.
yeah, okay, well, good
Can
to
you
know.
rename
I'm not-
a piece of tech,
I'm
or is
not-
that like renaming a boat? Is that bad luck?
I'm not trying to shame you. I've
Okay.
just, every single person I know who gets a new computer names it, it seems. And so
I-
I was very taken
Yeah,
off guard.
like-
That's all.
This is Nemesis.
See?
Okay,
That's
okay,
Yeah. That would be Shirakumo.
all right.
That was the name I gave that computer. If you did not give it a new name, then it has retained its old powers.
The thing is,
and I can understand why it's angry then.
when I got this computer from you, you know what it was called?
I mean, I don't name them internally, otherwise that
Yes.
gives demons power.
Because it was called Heather, her maiden name's MacBook Pro. That's what it was called. So I just assumed that you weren't a person who names all your computers after stuff.
I just don't put the name inside the computer.
Yes.
I want people to be
but
able to return it.
Because if you write the name of the golem and you put it in the golem then owns itself, and that's
Well, sure.
yes.
I feel like we're mixing some metaphors, but okay.
I just
Right.
named my computers after fictional AIs.
Like from the Culture series, or like
Lately, I've been on the Culture series. My phone is Gray Area. My
I like that
home PC is Total Internal Reflection.
This is when, Beej, when you're like an elderly man with a VR headset in your floating chair in your nursing home, complaining about like Linux and the difference between operating systems is going to sound to your caretakers like people that talk about how 8-track had such better fidelity than cassette.
I'm a big Linux fan still. Like I have Raspberry Pis. I want to get more Raspberry Pis, it seems, which is kind of crazy because I don't need more. But like
You never know.
And I spent years like from like my mid-20s up until now using Debian and using all this other stuff. I had a job in the data center where I was like I was of all the Windows people who were hired to work there. I think I was the only other one that had like been using Linux for as long as they had, and we had a whole Unix component as well. We had a bunch of guys from the Unix department, so it was like I was one of the people who like, oh, dude, I get the whole Linux thing. You know,
You told me
Windows guys
you
are like,
only
I'd rather
use
just use
Debian
Linux.
to watch the update bar fill, which is
Can I-
the equivalent of watching disk defrag.
Can I just share, since you brought up Raspberry Pis,
Yes.
that the first Raspberry Pi that you obtained, because you had to get it from Nanaimo,
Yeah.
which is far from here
Yep.
for us, you wanted it for your birthday, so I paid for it and talked to Johnny to go get it. That he, because of where the pickup point was, he had to stand in the middle of a field while someone delivered this mysterious object that had not been out for very long.
Like a
because
drug
it was
deal?
the only way to get it. And I think he was very nervous about what I was asking him to do.
He was about to be assaulted in Nanaimo.
But that's like the opposite of like, well, when did you get your first smartphone? Well, I waited in line for 3 hours outside the Apple store. Like that is the opposite of that story. Well, I
Yep.
met a man in a field. And he
By
gave me
myself,
a
I
raw
stood
chip.
out there for 20 minutes.
I have a T-shirt from the opening of the West End Mall Apple Store.
Who'd you get that from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got mine from yours.
Yeah.
I had
Did
to
they
work
shoot
that
at
day.
him out of an anodized aluminum t-shirt cannon?
No, I think they handed them out with the juice boxes.
Yeah, they were they were just very nice. They stood there, and as we walked around, they're like, "Oh, did you want a T-shirt?" I'm like, yes. This is. I'm still taking things from strangers. Yes, I will definitely have that. Thank you for handing that to me. Heather, did you want a T-shirt?
Yeah, I was working that day in the same mall. I just couldn't get off on a break.
Freaking